Hey performer, welcome to the Creatively Performing Arts podcast. Are you ready to get back to your creative passion for singing and performing again? Do you find yourself Googling, is it too late to start dancing or songs for auditions? Do you wake up with big creative goals only to think if only I kept training or I'll never be good enough? Hi, I'm Estelle, beginner singing coach, performing artist, 20-something musical theater lover, and Christ-centered creative. I also grew up performing, and after college, I felt called to start intentionally using these gifts again, but I thought it was too late to get training and it was selfish to make time for the arts. But then I realized the solution is to just get started. In this podcast, you're going to find beginner singing and performing tips, inspiration from amazing performing artists, and help to overcome fear and imposter syndrome so that you can finally start singing, acting, and dancing again. So pause your Broadway playlist, take a vocal rest, and submit that last audition self-tape, honey, because the show is starting and you're the star of it. Let's begin.
Creative execution. What's your process? Creative execution.
I'm your host, Briana Elmore, and this is the Creative Conversations podcast presented by One Choice Magazine. Creative Conversations is a safe space to help both experienced and beginning creatives see the beauty in what they do in order to take their careers to the next level. Whether you're just getting started or your work is finally gaining traction, Creative Conversations is a community of creatives willing to learn from mistakes as well as wins. Be sure to share it with a creative person to encourage them on their journey and tag the newsroom at One Choice Newsroom on Facebook and Instagram. It's only up from here. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creative Conversations. I'm your host, Briana Elmore, and today we have an amazing creative guest to share with you guys, to drop gems and all of the good things in between. I'm so excited about this. So without further ado, let me read her bio. Then she's going to tell you and confirm what's been said in the bio. And we're going to have an amazing time on this episode here today. So we have Estelle Avery. And so let me get down to it, okay? Estelle has studied psychology at Virginia Commonwealth University and supplemented her studies with voice and music classes. And now, while temporarily working in healthcare, she sings, acts, and dances and hosts her own amazing podcast, Creatively by Estelle, a podcast for creative and performing artists. She is determined to help other beginner musical theater performers and vocalists grow their creative gifts through her emerging voice coaching business. She's finally pursuing her God-given dream of being an artist and inspiring other artists, and she's happy to bring other creatives along for the ride, honey. That sounds like she belongs right here on this podcast, and we're so excited to have you. Without further ado, here is Estelle. Yay!
Thank you. That was such a beautiful intro.
You're welcome. You're welcome, honey. The bio stands alone. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
The bio doesn't need too much else. It sounds like you're incredibly creative oriented, and we're super excited to have you here. So tell us a little bit about yourself, because we know that other people can say it and read it and whatever, but give us a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Brianna, for that introduction. It was really kind. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm really excited. I know that you are creative and you inspire so many creatives with your show, and including myself, because I've listened. And so thank you. So my name is Estelle. I'm 23 years old, so I'm a little young, but I've always just had this passion and drive for being creative and being in the arts since I was young. And I grew up, I'm the daughter of hardworking, incredible, God-fearing Nigerian immigrants. They immigrated to America a couple years before my older sister was born, and then I came right after. And so now we live in North Carolina. So I'm in the South, but I think because I grew up in Nigerian culture. I also went to an African church. So because of that, because of that upbringing, I always just had this like determination that whatever I want to do, I want to be as good as I can be. I want to be the best that I can be, to and to be of service to other people, I think too, because my parents are both in the healthcare field. And so I think that has always been a driver is yes, wanting to be the best I can be, but also like impacting others and being of service. And I just didn't really think that, even though I loved the arts, I just didn't really see that as like, oh, that's helping people or like that can be of service to people through the arts or through being creative. It was just like, oh, that's just something you do for fun, even though you love it.
Mhm.
But the older that I got, when I was young, I was obsessed with fashion. Like I wanted to be a fashion designer. That was like my big dream. And then as I got older, I started doing more theater. I started dancing in church, singing in church. A lot of singers start in church,
Mhm.
especially in the South, right? So I started singing in church, dancing. I would choreograph pieces in church. And again, I went to a like predominantly African church. So sometimes they'd be more like West African style dances, Nigerian style dances. And I started acting as well in church and in school. And I would sing choir at school, took piano lessons, dance lessons in the community. And so, yeah, I was just like, and my older sister and I were just like very entrenched in the arts. And then my younger sister came along too. Even she was like, she grew up in the arts too. So um, we all had that upbringing. And I think, and the older I got, as I started to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, like going into college and everything, you always like everyone has that pressure of like, oh, what are you gonna choose? Like, what are you gonna do with the rest of your life? At 17 years old, and I was 17 when I graduated high school, because I was a little bit young for my grades. So I and I had like this really interesting experience in high school because I went to a predominantly white high school, very small private Christian high school in North Carolina. And I also had like my African home upbringing too. So it was this kind of like dichotomy of different cultures and experiences. So I always like I found race identity and like stereotypes and prejudice and like all that stuff really interesting, especially in high school. And because of that, I think I was drawn to sociology, like in topics in that in that field when it came to like writing papers and stuff. And we had to do a thesis in order to graduate. And my thesis had to do with some sociology and psychology themes regarding like race identity. And because of that, I got drawn into psychology and I was like, I love this. Like, I'm so interested in, how we think, why we think the way that we think, and what impacts the way that we think as individuals, how culture, society, and all these things, including the arts, impact the way that we think as humans. And so, yeah, so I went to college, studied psychology. I still wanted to do like I still loved the arts and I wanted to be creative. So I minored in music for a little bit. Long story short, I ended up with the chemistry minor because I was pre-med as well. And that's just like a little,
You just kind of like, it's like, let's put
yeah,
a cap on that and let's just kind of figure that out.
right. I
Because
did not
yes,
know what I was doing, but
yeah,
I knew
I've
that,
been there. I've been there with the minor. It's like
yeah,
you thought the minor was going to be the major and you
it did not
no
end up that
longer want to
way.
continue. So it's like, well, I'm not going to undo all the work I just did.
Right.
So I'm going to let that ride.
Right. It was because of my pre-med classes. And honestly, at the end of the day, like, yes, I would have preferred a music minor, but I'm grateful that I got the education that I got because, you know, like we were just saying before this, everything is a journey and you learn along the way. Oh, this happened, and looking back, would I do things differently? Maybe, but maybe not, because you have to go through certain things to learn certain things, and that's what I discovered. And so, going out of college, leaving college, I graduated a semester early in December 2019, and then came home, and then COVID happened. So
Oof.
I known that I was expected to kind of follow the medical route, the healthcare route that was like the safer choice for a career. And even though I knew that I love psychology, but I also love the arts and I wanted to do something creative and still incorporate my love for mental health somehow, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then COVID happened and I was like, you know what, let's just keep going,
I
let's
think
just
that
keep
that's
going.
what
Yeah.
COVID has. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's been draining on everybody. It's taken a lot from
Yes.
people, be it experiences, or other people, or any
Right.
kind of thing. Just different freedoms. It's taken a lot, but I will say, I think at least what I've understood and taken away from it personally was just
Yeah.
kind of the spirit of why not. And so
Right.
that's like, why not do this now? Because it's like you can literally see all these like very tangible instances of not having the time, or shoulda, coulda, wouldas, on
Mm.
as far as like feeling regret that I didn't do this. Because it's like, if we were ever reminded how, short life can be or whatever, it's right now. So I feel like that is kind of being like the gas under people's behinds, the light, like
Yes.
lighting the fires under people's behinds to kind of get up and get active in whatever it is that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's scary, but so are like everything is scary at this point in time. So it's just kind of like, you need to take the time to move forward and push, despite maybe it might be uncomfortable, or maybe it's kind of like a different terrain to kind of
Right.
maneuver. But it's just like that spirit of, okay, well, why not? And then why not me to do whatever this is, right? So it's just kind of like, let's go, let's do it, and let's attack it from multiple angles and multiple disciplines. So I love that your story came
Absolutely.
together in this way, that you were able to figure out, okay, maybe I wouldn't have done it wrong. Because I think sometimes the misconception when you go from not creative oriented positions to more creative oriented is saying like, I wish I never I don't know. You ever heard, like, the Donnell Jones? I think is it. Wait, no, is it Donnell Jones? And I wish I never met her at all. You ever? It's like that.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
song,
I feel
right?
like I have.
But it's like,
I feel
it's
like I
not that
should have.
it's a cult classic. You're gonna have to run it back, okay?
Yes,
Because it's
ma'am.
like, it was love at first sight. I know. You gotta listen to it, okay? And I talk in lyrics, so in my mind, that's where my head went. Was just like, you know I wish I never did it at all. No, I'm okay that I did that, because I'm still some things that I can take from this jurisdiction of study, right? That you may
Right.
think in the most intricate way, you dealing with something in this manner can contribute to yourself creatively, right? Because you have this understanding of people, because you have this understanding of chemistry. You understand what is and what's not as you create a different reality with what talents you have. I think that that's important. So I love that you said that you wouldn't necessarily change that field.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wish that I would have changed my jurisdiction of study in the beginning, so that I can maybe be in a different place, or have had the opportunity to do different things, like internship opportunities and all those
Yeah.
type of things. But I don't regret I don't regret my degree. So my degree is in finance. So it's
Oh,
completely not creative. But
wow.
I don't hate it. I just wish I would have been able to have like that formal training with like broadcast and cinematic art. If I could do it all over again, I would go back for that
Right.
back then. You know what I'm saying? And it was that's a difficult program, but I would have really applied to it and tried to do that.
Yeah.
But I don't regret my finance at all. I still work in finance today, and it's not a bad thing. So
Yeah.
I definitely get it.
Welcome to the McKissick Health Podcast Network, where you can listen to immersive story-driven series and interview-based shows, including the McKissick Health Podcast, Creative Conversations with Briana Elmore, The Experience, and our show, Good Luck Chuck, with your favorite hosts, Key and Bree. Our show engages with listeners through funny but honest storytelling and interviews with other people we know who are navigating everyday problems.
We help our Chuck Peak listeners put in the work, be intentional, and figure out how to live better lives. Listen to the Good Luck Chuck podcast on all platforms and follow us on social media at GoodLuckXXChuck. You can also find us online at podcast.mckissickhealth.com. Welcome to the room, Chuck Peeps.
But I like to mix it up because we didn't started really getting into the conversation already.
I
And
know.
sometimes people need a little icebreaker, and I love doing icebreakers so that we can kind of get to know you as a human, as we kind of like unpack whatever this, whatever our topic is for discussion. But I like to unpack you as a human a little bit too, so we can have a little bit of fun and just loosen up and really get the chance to see the real Estelle a little bit, just peeks, glimpses
Yes.
into you. So word association. So I'm gonna just
Oh,
give you one word. There's nothing you have to do. You just literally tell me the first word that comes to your mind,
okay.
other than the actual word.
Gotcha.
All right. Freedom,
Joy.
permission,
To create.
prerogative,
Decision. I don't know.
guidance.
Oh, God.
And wait, are you saying
Oh,
oh
God.
God?
Yes, God. No, not oh, God, like
God
oh,
is the
God, but God Himself guiding me. Yes. Amen.
and professional.
Creative.
Nice.
That's what I want to be. Yeah.
So see, that was very easy.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your
Yeah.
patience, everyone. Truly.
As we journey through
You're right.
making the decision between the thises or that. Very good. Very good. See, very easy. Very good.
Thank you.
So for my first question is like, I know we were talking about like as we were kind of just unpacking you as an individual, what do you feel like was your aha moment when you gravitated towards creativity? So we know that one thing really wasn't feeling like a fit, but when did you kind of say, okay, I can do something, I'd rather do something creative and I'm going to do this? When did you
Yeah.
become decisive in your decision to do something creative?
It's really interesting because there have been multiple moments, but so like I think one of the first like two major moments stand out. One is was at the end of college. I had really been praying and just like talking to people that I knew, like wise counsel, people that I trusted, one of my mentors slash pastors at the time, on campus, and just like friends and stuff, and also just really spending a lot of time with myself, with my Bible, with my journal, and trying to just like figure out myself and what I wanted to do next, and like if medical school is really for me, and you know what that future would look like. And I just heard, and I don't know, everyone has a different worldview, but I just know for me, like my faith is really central to how I make decisions, and I felt God saying like, um what I've been telling you, like what you're meant to do, or like the creative thing that you're supposed to focus on has always been right in front of you. I just didn't get it because I was like, okay, like I love fashion, but like I love the arts, I love performing, like I don't understand, like what am I supposed to do with my life? I love psychology, and
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, oh, it's always been right in front of me, and I just haven't been paying attention. And of course, it was performing because throughout my entire life, like I've been performing, I've been singing my whole life. I loved it. I loved theater. I loved dance. Like I was obsessed with I became like obsessed with musicals in college. Like I,
What's your
I
favorite
just,
musical?
oh, Dreamgirls movie musical. But when it comes to on Broadway cast recordings, probably Wicked, Waitress, or Hamilton. Top three. That
I'm
was so
gonna hit.
fast, but I knew it.
See, look at you. Okay, you keep saying you're not decisive, and yet I don't see that because I'm asking you questions and you're
Yeah,
giving me answers.
you're right.
Okay.
You're right. I'm glad you
Listen,
asked. Yes. Everyone go listen
Dreamgirls
to
is
all of those
it.
shows. So good.
Dreamgirls is it. Okay.
So
I
good.
literally can remember. I wasn't in college when Dreamgirls came out, but in while I was in college, definitely remember watching Dreamgirls with some of my friends, and that was truly, it's like one of those like, what is it? Those fundamental memories from college.
Yes.
It's like literally that, and then we watch like Waiting to Exhale. So
Hmm.
y'all know who you are. Love you guys from college. But yes, that was such a good time. It was very fun. So yes, very much so a like a pivotal memory. It's like being
Yeah,
in the room in the dorms watching Dreamgirls and singing along to everyone. And also shout out to
yes,
Jennifer Hudson, who now has an EGOT, because we know she started off
period.
with an Oscar from Dreamgirls. So
From
yes,
Dreamgirls. Oh, that's so true. I didn't even think about that. Oh,
yeah.
that's amazing. She was so good in that movie. Oh my goodness.
She's just so good, period. So we
Yeah,
love Jennifer
yes,
Hudson.
in general, absolutely. There were
And I
so many. It
actually
was
saw Wicked.
star-studded.
I
Oh,
saw Wicked,
really?
but it wasn't on Broadway, but it was like
Hmm.
in Chicago. So
That's so cool.
I'm from Michigan, so we saw that in like my class went to I was in a voice keyboard class growing up. So I went to
Oh,
like a magnet school, and so I was in voice keyboard from 6th to 12th grade. And so we would go and see like live shows. And so Wicked was one of the shows,
oh,
and love Wicked. Love it.
so good. That's
Love
amazing.
it. Love it. Love it. And I wouldn't normally like be like, oh, I want to see something about a witch. Yeah, but it was so good. I didn't know because I did
Yeah,
not know what it was about. I knew nothing.
yeah.
I didn't understand. I just went there and got my world rocked. Okay. It was a good show. Very good show.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's
very good
awesome.
show. Very good story. We
So
love to hear
beautiful.
it.
Yes, I can't wait for the movie to come out with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. Oh, it's gonna be so
Cynthia
good.
can sing anything she'd like.
Anything and everything, absolutely. But yeah, so love that. Love musicals. And yeah, so I just after that, like I came home and I was, trying to figure out what I was gonna do next. I'd applied to med schools. I'd taken the MCAT and everything and had applied, but my heart wasn't fully in it, and I kind of like dragged my feet with recommendation letters and stuff like that. So I wasn't getting like the responses that I would have wanted if my whole heart was into going. And so
Mhm.
I just started deciding, I was like, I'm just gonna like pay attention to what I felt like God was saying, like, oh, it's been right in front of you. I was like, let me pay attention to that. Let me just start taking a dance class, and let me just start, just like singing more for fun, singing more musical theater song covers, and like recording it
Because
for
that's what
myself
you
just for
enjoy
fun.
anyway, right?
Exactly. So I was just like, let me just start. Let me just start and not make an excuse as to why I can't start right now.
Yeah.
So
And so
that's what I
wait, I got a quick question.
did.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I have to interject because my mind is like, ask it. So so when you were waiting, so you already completed all of your studies to
Hmm.
have been admitted into a medical school program. So that's
Yeah.
important to know. Like it was like we was on the path. It wasn't like, oh, I just want to be a doctor one day. It was like, no, honey, the
Yeah.
credentials are here. I could do it. But
Yeah.
it was just kind of like something stopped you. And did you feel any pressure because you have family that is in the medical field? Did you feel that type of pressure? Did they ever say like you need to do this? What was that like? Was
Mhm.
how did you navigate that dynamic? Like when you were like, I don't want to do this, and this is something, and it's like a background they understand
Yeah.
to doing something creative, and I don't know them. They may understand the creativity uh
Mhm.
path as well, but this like we're making this huge like 180
Yeah.
turn from one
Yeah.
jurisdiction to the next. And how was that? How did you navigate that? Because sometimes we have it where it's like, oh, sometimes people think, oh, it's all the dream, but it may or may not be. So like what was that? That's why I love hearing these different stories from different creatives. So how was
Yeah.
that?
Well, yeah, so there was definitely back and forth just because I didn't really know what I wanted very clearly. And I think that's really the main issue, is that I didn't have that sense of clarity. Like you're saying, like what was that decisive moment? Even that moment there then that I had at the end of college before COVID happened and everything, it was decisive, but it wasn't quite decisive enough for me. Like I still wasn't completely standing like with 2 feet, stake in the ground, all in. And so because of that, I was still like, yes, I was easily swayed by external motivation. Yeah, I definitely had that like external validation that, oh, this is definitely what, yeah, there, we all feel pressure from society and from our cultures to do what is, a well-trodden path, or what is something that has like a clear path towards success. And so I understood that, and I wanted to, make people proud, make my parents proud, make everyone proud, and make myself proud too. But like I really wanted to make other people proud. I like I like everyone to be happy with me and content. And so I think because of that piece of that external validation, and also just because I wasn't like fully like able to say I am a creative, I am an artist. Like I felt like that's what I was supposed to do, but I was like, I'm just trying this more. Like I'm just doing this more because I like it. I wasn't fully like all in. Like this is what I'm doing with 100% assurance, and yeah. And I think because of that, it was very easy for me to say, to just like acquiesce and say, oh, this is what I know people want from me. So let me just, keep going along with, this journey and this path that is already prescribed. And so I truly think that it was really my inability to make that firm decision and stand in that wholly early enough. Like I wish I had done that earlier, but again, it's all in the journey, and now I am. But it's taken that time, and yeah. So it's been a journey. And I started my podcast. When I started my podcast, it was 2021. It was June 2021 that I started it, and I was in medical school when I started it. Actually, I went to medical school in Barbados. It was an international medical school.
Listen, let me stop you there.
Yeah,
I would have preferred to be in Barbados during the pandemic because they do not play. Here
they
be
do not
playing
play.
Here they be playing, and I was like, you know what? I promise you, I was like in the house for a year, and I was not playing. Like nobody was coming in, and I was not really going out. Yeah. It was like I am in the house. Okay, it was like my family was worried. They were like, "Oh my God, you are really taking these guidelines to heart." And that's what, but like I saw like all the places that were like really taking it serious. And if there was anywhere I would have felt more safe, it would have been Barbados. I just want that I want it on the record.
Yes. No, Barbados is a tiny island. So yeah, like they are very strict because they have, they don't have as much space, and they have like, they have to be really careful. So yes, you're very right. You definitely would have been had those strict rules there that you would have wanted.
So they were not playing. She was like, listen.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it, or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help this show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.